Paul's here after watching the Sabres dismantle Winnipeg and force a players-only meeting. Paul, good morning.
How are you? Well, I'm getting out of here just in the nick of time, heading to Philadelphia. So
road trip.
I do not believe it's snowing there.
Yeah, Philly and then a Western Conference swing, right, Paul?
Paul's not going to Aruba or anything.
Yeah,
Winnipeg.
I'll be back here enjoying the snow with you guys on Thursday, and they'll be headed to Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and then Seattle before they come home again.
So not a beach vacation by any means.
No, mountain vacation. It'll be wonderful. Well, Paul, Sabres win last night. They looked dominant from pretty much from start to finish. And the big story is probably the return of Josh Norris, who played great, put points on the board. And it's funny, Paul, like 5 games now. He's played 5 games as a Sabre. Played 3 last year, got hurt. Played 1 this year earlier, got hurt. Now he's back. And I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because this is a player that's always struggled to stay healthy. But if he does stay healthy, which is a big if for him, I mean, last night was probably the best example of the caliber of player he is when he's healthy and at his best.
And I never put too much into the preseason, especially in the NHL, but he was doing this in the preseason. He was, I don't know, I'm trying to think back. I don't know if I have this totally correct. I believe he was around 2 points a game in the preseason. So, yeah, I remember talking in the morning skate yesterday. It was almost sounded like somebody getting ready to play their first NHL game. He said the night before he hardly got any sleep. Like he was really excited and anxious to get on the ice and get going again. So what you saw last night was on very little sleep.
And he also producing, I mean, the 2 goals were both nice, right, Paul? Like the breakaway goal especially. He gets the power play assists. I mean, part of the value, I think, of having him was supposed to be that him being on that opposite side of Tage would help their power play.
Yeah, well, we know he can score. I mean, the year he had 35 goals, he didn't even play 70 games. It was in the 60s. So, imagine what he would have done had he played 82 that year. So, I don't think there's any question about the talent. I don't think there's any question that he's capable of scoring goals and adding to the offense. He's capable of winning the odd face-off for you. There's a lot of things he is very capable of doing. And he's not bad defensively either. I mean, he doesn't hurt you on the ice defensively. So, and you never know with these guys. I mean, there are guys I've seen that have had, injury prone. They get hurt. And at some point, it just kicks in, and they're fine. And the injuries finally stop. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with him, but he wouldn't be the first player I've ever seen where, he kept getting hurt, then all of a sudden he stopped getting hurt.
And he wouldn't be the first player, Paul, that an organization, this is a big change of scenery point for Norris. Like, you're Ottawa, you're like, we're just tired of this. We just want to do something else, So good luck. And you see a lot of Senators fans, after a trade, Paul, sometimes people will be mad at a player. Like, Sabres fans are happy that J.J. Peterka, anything that goes wrong for him, and I understand with good reason. With Norris, in this trade, it feels like Sens fans are legitimately, hey, I hope that guy gets it together. He just couldn't stay healthy for us, and the organization grew tired. And for the Sabres, it's fresh. So, we saw our first little bout of missed time, and now we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, and when I tweeted out that after the morning skate that he was playing, I noticed quite a few Ottawa people were on that tweet, including a couple of radio stations, and so they haven't forgotten about him there. I'm not sure a lot of people in Ottawa were extremely happy with that trade, but sometimes it's just, and I think Alex Tuch is a good case in point. I mean, up until 2024-25. He had 78 games his first year in the NHL and never did that. He had 74, 42, 55, 50. Of course, COVID's in there. 74, 75. Then he hit 82 last year and has played all 26 this year. So sometimes your fortunes just change.
Yeah, I think the hope for Norris, too, and maybe the maintenance the Sabres might deal with him is that it's been the same injury, right, that's been repeating. So that almost, though, I wonder if you could target it better. if it's a different injury every single time, it's like, what are we supposed to do? Like Samuelson's maybe been that a little bit over his career. He could be another example of this, by the way, Paul. Samuelson, I mean, cross your fingers. It's still early in the season, but he was a guy that it was, man, this guy just can't stay healthy, and now you're seeing him stay healthy, and it's going well for him too.
Well, last year was the most games Samuelson ever played, excuse me, which was 62, and this year he's played 24 out of 26. So, and has had a very, very good year for the Sabres. So, it's, as I said, sometimes things just switch around. You don't know. I'm not predicting it. There's no way to predict it. But we will find out as time goes on.
How do you feel about kind of how the lineup now looks? Like they're not all the way back to full health. Kulik's still out. Kesselring, of course, still too. But like the lineup you saw last night with Norris included, Tage moves back to the wing. Their top three lines, especially, Paul, like on paper, they even, I think, look a lot better. And then you saw it, come to fruition on the ice.
Well, Norris, right away makes it better. When he got hurt, I said there are a few players on this team they just can't afford to lose, and he's one of them. Thompson would be one of them, and Dahlin would be one of them. Where you just, and I think Tuck, when he's playing his best, would fall into that category too. But they just don't have a replace. They're not deep enough to be able to even remotely hang in when Norris isn't playing. So, they still, I think overall could use another top six forward. And then if Norris goes out, now you're missing two. And it really, weakens the lineup. So, still they could have done better. I still, injuries are part of it, and I want to acknowledge that. But I still think they could have done a better job of hanging in there and not putting themselves in such a hole that now that they have to dig themselves out of. There were so many games where they left points on the table, while he was out and while there were other injuries where, even games they played well in and they weren't getting points in. You could use Pittsburgh. I wouldn't know if I'd say they played well, but they played good enough in Pittsburgh where there was an opportunity to take points out of that game, and they didn't. And Pittsburgh's one of the teams they were chasing. So I just think even with Norris out, they could, and some of the injuries that they had, Benson and others, they could have done a better job of hanging in there. And then when you get healthier, you're in a better position to start moving up.
Paul Hamilton joining us. His appearance brought to you by Raylax Honda. The Sabres win and beat Winnipeg in convincing fashion, getting out to an early lead and chasing Eric Comrie in this game. Paul, in goal this trip, you feel like we'll get a look as they go on this Western Conference trip after playing Philadelphia. Will the goaltending rotation, do you think, start to form into maybe a number one, number two? Like, cause we were talking about it with Owen earlier that it looks like they might be starting to lean back towards Luukkonen, him having the job. And you feel like the 5-game stretch here, we'll get a really good look into what their mindset might be?
Well, it sounds like Ellis is still having problems. Lindy said they must have had some plane problems or weather problems, that they were on the plane a long time, like, what did he say, 4-6 hours, whatever, a lot longer than they needed to be coming home from Minnesota. And that seemed to mess up Ellis a little bit. Now, don't forget he had back spasms, which kept him out for a while. So that's the reason that they were going to go with a fresh goaltender here. They got in like at 4 a.m. or something like that. And so he wanted to make sure they had a fresh goaltender in. Now, Luukkonen, in his last 6 appearances, is 3-3, but he's got a 2.22 goals against average and a .908 save percentage. 5 of those 6 are starts. The other appearance was almost like a start. It was the game where Lyon only played 6 minutes and Luukkonen played the rest, after he got pulled in Colorado. So those are pretty good numbers in his last 6 games. I thought he was quieter last night as far as not all over the place and not overplaying pucks. And it seemed like he was in control of himself in that game last night. The goal was a tip in front. Nobody picked up Connor in front. That's a goal scorer, one of the better goal scorers in the National Hockey League. But the overall game, I can't think of too many other times in the game where I thought coverages were bad or defending was bad. That was one of the very, very few errors I thought they made defensively. Letting him stand in front by himself and tip the puck in. That was the thing. Buffalo got the 5 goals. They got to Comrie. I mean, Winnipeg's a mess when they don't have Hellebuck, but we've never really seen them without him. And they had a players-only meeting because now they have to hang in. It's 4 to 6 weeks, and this is only the 7th game, and you're 2-5 without him. And if the Sabres are looking for a landing point for one of their goaltenders, Winnipeg might be interested. I don't think what they've got in goal right now is going to keep them in the race. And, we know what Comrie is. He's played in Buffalo. I don't think he's going to keep him in the race. So that's why, it was kind of funny because I was walking after Lindy was done, and I saw Scott Arniel and said hello to him and talked to him for a while. And I thought it was a little strange he was standing out in the hallway. And that's why, because there was a players-only meeting going on in his room.
He got kicked out.
Yeah. He didn't tell me that. I found that out after I talked to him.
Yeah.
They got to find a way. But if Buffalo's looking to, if they've made a decision of, they're keeping whatever, that might be a landing point for one of their goaltenders.
Wouldn't the guy that makes the most sense for that be Lyon? Because he's a veteran, and that might be more Winnipeg's. Because if you are the Sabres, Paul, like in a perfect world, I think if you could choose the 2 guys that would perform well for you going forward, I think you would want UPL and Ellis to do it just because they're younger, and maybe you could build off that, not just for this year, but beyond.
And I think Lyon could be more of a long-term backup for them. I don't think Comrie is good enough to be and Lyon can maybe handle what it would take to be behind Hellebuck.
Yeah.
So that's why, what your idea right there would make more sense, because it could be, and he's got another year left on his contract. Now, I'm off the top of my head, I don't know what Comrie's contract situation is, but that might be a better solution for them, especially after Hellebuck gets back.
Right, and they're not going to want to pair Luukkonen's salary with Hellebuck's anyway, so he wouldn't be an option. Paul,
Luukkonen's high maybe for Luukkonen, but he's not high for goaltenders.
Right. Paul Hamilton with us. Paul, on the lineup, is Noah Ostlund, you think, at this point, here to stay? Like, it feels like game to game, he's pretty consistent. He's not always putting up points, but I feel like he's been pretty consistent for them.
He has been, and it gets down to, all right, when Kulich comes back, where do you put him? Where does he fit in? Does he fit in where Ostlund is right now? But the thing is, too, do you have other injuries when Kulich gets back? It doesn't sound like – he's not even skating, so he's not imminent to be coming back. You hardly hear anything about Danforth, which tells me I wonder if he had a surgery or something like that. Mm-hmm. He just got hurt, and you don't really hear anything about him other than Lindy did mention him the other day for the first time in a while in the not skating category, why Kesselring has taken the ice on his own. So that's good news for Sabre fans there. But I don't know where Danforth fits in, but I think the one is Kulich. That would have an effect on Ostlund one way or the other. But, I talked to him for the pregame yesterday, and he's doing he's looking at it exactly the way he should. He said it's his job to make it difficult on Lindy Ruff to make a decision, to send him back. And he said the biggest thing for him has been play well defensively. His offensive numbers have been fine. His shootout, that shootout was phenomenal. As Lindy Ruff will quote Lindy Ruff, he said that was sick. That was a nice move in the shootout. So he hasn't done anything to hurt himself. As Kevin Adams has always said, if somebody plays well enough, they will find a spot for them. So that's the question: has he played well enough where he has forced the Buffalo Sabres to find a spot for him?
Paul Hamilton joining us. His appearance brought to you by Rail-X. On to Rail-X, we got this. The Sabres win, and next up it's Philly, and then the lengthy road trip. Their next home game is on December 18th. Paul, thanks very much. We'll chat as this road trip gets started, and enjoy your travels.
No problem, guys. Take care.